Let me remind you again what happened in Isaiah 53. We saw Jesus taking our place. He was wounded for our transgressions. And now for those who are the beneficiaries of Him who took our place, He now says here, speaking to us in these very favorable terms, He says, I'm your Redeemer, the God of the whole earth shall He be called. Verse 6, for the Lord hath called thee as a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, as a wife of youth when thou wast refused, saith God. Listen, verse 7. Listen, remember, He's talking to the redeemed. He's talking to you and me. He's talking to all of us who believe in this Jesus who took our place. Verse 7. For a small moment have I forsaken thee. When did He ever do that? Can I tell you? When Jesus was on the cross. And He said, my God, why have you forsaken me? I've had lots of people come to me at different times, especially when I'm at a BJCC preaching. Could you explain that to me? They can't understand that. Why would Jesus say, my God, why have you forsaken me? Well, one thing was He was quoting from Psalm 22, and it says it there. But here's why He said it and why He had to say it. Because He was numbered with the transgressors. He was identified with you and me. And for a small moment, for that time when He was on the cross, identified, taking our place, taking the judgment that we deserved, it says, for a small moment I have forsaken thee. See, God sees what He did as it was given to us. He judged us in the person of Jesus. And He says to us, the redeemed, for a small moment I have forsaken thee. That's when we were on the cross with Him. But with great mercies I will gather thee. Verse 8 He says the same thing in different language. It's something that's very common in Jewish poetry. You see it in the Psalms. He'll say the same thing twice using different words. Verse 8, in a little wrath I hid my face from thee for a moment. When was that? When we were identified with Jesus on the cross. When He said, my God, why have you forsaken me? That's when this was fulfilled. In a little wrath I hid my face from thee for a moment. But since that's now happened and been accomplished, with everlasting kindness will I have mercy on thee, saith the Lord thy Redeemer. Now remember what I said about a propitiation. It's a sacrifice that is sufficient to end all the demands of justice. You see, God, as a righteous judge, even though He loved us, He had to judge everything that was wrong. But Jesus was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. He took our place. We were forsaken, and in His wrath there on the cross, that was all expressed. But now that that's been taken care of, you see, that's a finished work. What's now true concerning us? Notice He's talking to the redeemed. He's speaking to us. Now that that's done, look at verse 9. Look at what He says. For this is as the waters of Noah unto me. For as I have sworn that the waters of Noah should no more go over the earth. Let's stop for a minute. Do you remember the story of Noah? What happened in the story of Noah? If you go back to Genesis and read about it, God says, the sins of the earth have come up before me, the sins of mankind, and I have decided to destroy all flesh. The flood was a judgment upon sin, right? Would you agree? But He said to Noah, the one who found grace in the eyes of the Lord, that's what the text tells us. He said to Noah, build an ark. And we're told that Noah was a preacher of righteousness. Now, we don't have any record of Noah's sermons while he was building the ark. It doesn't tell us what he said. But while he's building the ark, I could just imagine what he might have said while he's building the ark. Everybody needs to get on the ark. That could be a very simple sermon. But you see, the sad thing about it is nobody believed Noah except for his children and their husbands, his daughters and their husbands. Nobody believed Noah except or was it his sons? Maybe I'm thinking of Abraham, his sons and their daughters, or their wives. Well, anyway, his children and their spouses, whichever way that is. Nobody believed Noah except his own children, and so only his own family. I think it says 8 souls were saved in that, and then all the animals, of course. And all those that believe, we could say it this way, all those that believed Noah came and got into the ark. Now, listen, the flood came and the rains came. When the rains came down that were the flood that caused the judgment, listen, it was a judgment on sin, wasn't it? That wasn't just any old rain shower. That was a rain that was designed to judge sin of the earth. The same rain that fell on the earth and judged sin for those in the ark, the rain fell on the ark instead of on them. Right? Those in the ark, see, they didn't get off the hook. They went through it, but they went through it inside the ark. And the judgment that they would have experienced if they'd been on the outside, the ark experienced in their place. And the ark was constructed so that it could carry them through. And on the other side, they came out, and the judgment was passed. And when the flood waters were gone, They opened up the ark and it's a new creation. Isn't that right? They looked out on a new creation. And that ark is like Jesus. It's a type of Jesus. It carried them through the judgment. They didn't escape it. They passed through it in the person of Jesus, in the ark. And they came out into a new creation. And then the next thing, the very next thing that God says is, look up in the sky at the rainbow. Remember reading that? This rainbow is my seal, my guarantee that I will never again do this on the earth. I will never again destroy the earth with a flood. Now he says here, remember, we just read about Jesus, and we just read about his suffering on the cross, and we just read about the redeemed. That's us. Verse 9, this is, what is? What we just talked about, Jesus taking our place. This is as the waters of Noah unto me, for as I have sworn that the waters of Noah should no more go over the earth, in the same way, so have I sworn that I would not be wroth with thee, nor rebuke thee. He says, in the same way that I swore that I'll never again flood the earth, you who are my redeemed, you who believe in this Jesus, I have also sworn in the exact same way I will never be angry with you, and I will never rebuke you. Now, that's a good answer for people who say, I think God's mad at me. No, he's not mad at you. Well, I've made mistakes. Yes, I know. You know, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had like that. People they see their mistakes and their sins and their missteps as looming so large, and they lose sight of the fact that Jesus has already seen their mistakes. The God of the universe, the just judge, has already seen their mistakes and their missteps. And he, because of his love, remember what started this? In this was the love of God for us. Not that we loved him, but that he loved us, and he sent Jesus to be the propitiation for our sins. The sacrifice that is sufficient to get the job done. The sacrifice that is sufficient to end all the demands of justice. All the demands of God. To end all of his anger against us. He's not angry with us. He loves us. See, the judgment and the justice has already been meted out in the person of Jesus. It was necessary that it be so. And because it is now so, those of us who believe in him, we're the recipients of this promise. So I have sworn, I would not be wroth with thee, nor rebuke thee. For the mountains and the hills shall depart, or the mountains shall depart, and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from thee. Neither shall the covenant of my peace be removed, saith the Lord, that hath mercy on thee. This is a prophecy of all those people who believe in Jesus as the propitiation. Now let's go back to John again. Let's see what else we can see. 1 John chapter 4. That is a very good biblical description of what it means that Jesus was sent to be a propitiation for our sins. Now let's read this one more time. 1 John chapter 4, verse 9. In this was manifested the love of God toward us, because that God sent his only begotten Son into the world, that we might live through him. Verse 10 says, herein is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us. Again, he puts all the emphasis on what God did. Not that we love God so much that he said, boy, I've got to respond to them. They love me so much. Just the opposite is true. He loved us first. That's the principle of grace. He acts first. He loved us first. He loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. We just read about that. Beloved, if God so loved us, we ought also to love one another. Now I want to turn back to John's Gospel and give you a good illustration of this truth that we've just read about in the person of Jesus. And this is John's Gospel, chapter 13. When we come to the 13th chapter of John's Gospel, we are only hours away from the cross. This is just before what we call the Last Supper, where he's meeting with his disciples for the last time, where he's going to take the bread and the wine and say, this is my blood of the new covenant, this is my body broken for you. And then he's going to go away to the cross. These are the last things he said to them, recorded in John's Gospel. But before he speaks, and before they have the Last Supper, Jesus does something very interesting and also very important. John's Gospel, chapter 13, beginning with verse 1. Now, before the feast of the Passover, by the way, the crucifixion of Jesus coincided exactly with the feast of the Passover, in which the blood of the lamb was offered in the Old Testament. When Jesus knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end. Now, again, we're talking about His love for us, and He's getting ready to go to the cross, as we just saw, as the propitiation for our sins, to restore us and to bring us forever into a secure position of God's love.